Greetings of the day, students. Welcome to Bangla Shikha Classroom 2025, an endeavor of Paschim Bongo Samogro Shikha Mission under the Education Department, Government of West Bengal. I am Mita Datto, Assistant Teacher of Dokhinesha Sri Sri Sharoda Devi Balika Vidya Mandir. Today, we are going to do the lesson Ulysses from the book A Realm of English B Selection. This particular poem is in your third semester of class 12. Along with it, we are going to do something about answering the unseen comprehension passage that you are supposed to do in your semester 3 answers. So now please open page 83 of your book and open the poem Ulysses. Before we proceed, we need to know something about the poet. Alfred Lord Tennyson was born on August 6, 1809 in Somersby, England. He was one of the most popular and loved Victorian poets. Now, what is Victorian literature or Victorian period? It's the period spanning Queen Victoria's reigning period between 1837 and 1901. This period saw the rise of the novel form of writing as a very popular medium of writing. And during this period, the themes of industrialization, social class differences, morality, issues like poverty, inequality, the problems of the working class, these were generally used as themes of the literary pieces. In 1884, Queen Victoria granted Tennyson the title of Baron Tennyson, and this made him the member of House of Lords. That's why he is known as Alfred Lord Tennyson. His poetry is exceptional. It is very rich and descriptive. It has a lot of imagery and beautiful verbal melodies. Much of his poetry was based on classical mythology. The poem we are going to do, while doing the poem also we can find a reflection of mythology here, and there is a theme of isolation from the usual, the general. So as we proceed learning the poem or reading the poem, we will understand this theme of isolation by which he tries to, or Ulysses tries to isolate himself from the mundane and general life of everyday eating, sleeping, and doing nothing. He prefers this life to what? To an adventurous life. Tennyson died on 6th October 1892 when he was of age 83 in a village in England. Now, who is Ulysses? Ulysses is the legendary king of Ithaca in Greece. He is the hero of Homer's epic poem Odyssey, and in that poem, he plays a very key role. Ulysses thus is the Latinized form of the Greek name Odysseus, and it is the same legendary Greek hero from Homer's epic poem the Odyssey. So, Ulysses and Odyssey are the same person in different names. Ulysses, after returning from the Trojan War, he reunites with his wife and son, but he is not at all happy to stay in Ithaca because he is restless to go for adventures. And as we proceed in the poem, we see that he hands over the throne to his son Telemachus, and he inspires his other friends, the other mariners, who were all with him during the Trojan War, to join him in his voyage to the unknown. He doesn't know where he wants to go, but he knows that he wants to travel and know the unknown. And he wants his friends or mariners also to establish their identity as explorers. He considers his sailors as friends and fellow mariners, and he wants to go with them together for an adventure. This is the island of Ithaca in Greece, where the setting of the poem is. Now, as we introduce the poem to you, it is divided into 3 stanzas according to the division of thoughts. It's a very long poem and it has 3 stanzas. The first stanza, which is from line 1 to 32, here we find Ulysses speaking to himself and expressing his dissatisfaction with his idle life and expressing his idea of entering into a life full of adventures. Then in the second stanza, which is from line 33 to 43, we find Ulysses speaking to an unidentified listener about his son Telemachus, because when he goes away for adventures, he wants Telemachus to take up the position of the king in Ithaca. Now in the third stanza, which is from lines 44 to 70, Ulysses is speaking to his friends, the mariners, the crew, with whom he wants to go again to the adventures into the sea. Now this poem also has an elegiac tone. What is that elegiac tone? In many of his poems, Tennyson wrote in response to the death of his very close friend, Arthur Hallam. Hence, this poem also has biographical relevance. Biographical relevance. The poem laments the end of a lifestyle, the life of the restless warrior and adventurers. After coming back from the Trojan War, Ulysses is not happy of his leisurely lifestyle. He wants to go back to that adventures which he faced as a warrior. And that's why he said just the accumulation of years. He does not want life to be just an accumulation of years. So he writes life piled on life. So it is like the experiences and knowledge which he has gained through hard work that he wants to do again. He thinks that life which is void of action and adventures leads to decay, to destruction of an active life, and one stops to shine once one stops to work. That's why he says how dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rust unburnished, not to shine in use. Here, when we come to that line in that poem, we will do it in details. He said that just as a sword, it will become rusted once it's not in use. Likewise, in life, if we stop acting, if we stop going for adventures, if we stop doing actions, then life will also rust and become very rough and uneventful. So he is keen on living life to the lees, like living life to its brim, full of adventures and actions. Exploration and colonization is also a theme here, because in the time that Tennyson was writing, Britain wanted to fulfill its mission of conquering new territories and enlarging the empire. So it is also to establish Britain's obligation to rule the rest of the world. Ulysses, as I told you, was written in 1833 and it was inspired by Homer's Odyssey, and it was published in 1842. When he comes and reunites with his wife Penelope and son Telemachus, he is not happy meeting them after so many days. He finds his life very stagnant. And that's why, even after meeting his family, after so many days, Ulysses yearns to explore again. Now, dramatic monologue is a very important part of this poem because this entire poem is spoken by a single character whose identity is revealed by his own words. The lines are in blank verse or in unrhymed iambic pentameter, which gives a natural flow to Ulysses' speech. When you open the poem, you can see that the entire poem, it is spoken by Ulysses, and as we listen to his speech, we come to know his identity. So this is a important or very important part of a very important feature of dramatic monologue. And you can see there, it's not rhymed, so it's called unrhymed iambic pentameter. Now, what is iambic pentameter? There are 5 iambs. Iambs means stressed or unstressed syllables, pairs. So each line has 10 syllables. That's why it's called iambic pentameter. And most of the lines are enjambed. Enjam means a thought does not end with the line. We see that Ulysses completes his speech in the middle of a line. So that is called enjambment. So this is maintained to make the speech interrupted and give the speech a natural flow. That's why you must remember these features of this poem. Now, let us proceed to the poems. First, we do line 1 to 17. Please open the books and follow the lines. It little profits that an idle king, by the still hearth among these barren crags, matched with an aged wife, I meet and dole unequal laws unto a savage race, that hoard and sleep and feed and know not me. So here he is telling that it does not benefit a king to remain idle and do nothing by the still hearth. Hearth means a fireplace which is in the comfort of a home, and among the barren crags. Here barren crags means unfertile lands and mountains. It actually indicates the place Ithaca, of which place Ulysses was the king. So he says that he has come back from the Trojan Wars, but now he is in the comfort of his wife and of his home, and he has to live with his aged wife, with whom he has to share and deal everything, and also his the people of Ithaca who eat, sleep, and hoard like a savage race, like wild animals in groups. Like animals do not think of adventures in life. Likewise, the people in his kingdom, his wife, everybody do not understand Ulysses' greatness, and that's why their mentality differs. But what does Ulysses say about it? I cannot rest from travel. I will drink life to the lees. He says that I cannot rest like them in the comfort of my home, like the other people, like my wife. I want to drink life to the lees. Now, what is the meaning of lees? Means sediments. Here there is a comparison of life to the wine. So it is a metaphor. I will drink life to the lees as one drinks wine up to the time only the residue is left. That means the whole bottle of wine one takes for their pleasure. Likewise, Ulysses will act in life, Ulysses will travel in life, go for adventures in life, like the bottle in which only a residue is left. So he will drink life to the fullest. He will utilize life's journey to the fullest. So this is a metaphor where his life is compared to a wine. Greatly, I at all times I have enjoyed greatly, have suffered greatly, both with those that loved me and alone on shore, and when through scudding drifts the rainy haze vexed the dim sea. I am become a name, for always roaming with a hungry heart. Much have I seen and known, cities of men and manners, climates, councils, governments, myself not means but honor of them all. So here in all the lines till 17, he is telling that I have traveled through all places, and these places have made me acquainted with different cities of men, different manners, climates, and everything. So traveling makes us a more complete person. And all the people with whom I have traveled, or if even if I have traveled alone, I am become a name. I have established my position in this world. So there are some references like scudding drifts means swift movements like crowd driven by winds. Rainy haze. What does rainy haze mean? It means a star cluster, a constellation in Taurus, which is historically associated with rain and storms in Greek mythology, where the Hades were three nymphs who were, nymphs means some mythological spirits who were believed to bring rain, rain in the like rain, they were symbolic of rain. And what does ringing plains means? Far on the ringing plains means the battlefield. Here the sound of weapons means ringing plains. So when there were battles, there are noises of the swords against each other. So the sounds of weapons, onomatopoeia is a figure of speech in which there is a reflection of some sound that we hear. So here when it's called ringing, the ringing word actually symbolizes the battlefield with sound of weapons. And where was the battle fought? In Troy. Troy was an ancient city located in present day Turkey. So he says that his experience as a traveler, as a warrior, along with all his friends, has given him the momentum not to stop, not to be leisurely, and proceed in life with more adventures. So this is the explanation of lines 1 to 17, which I have just told you. So you can go through this as we go to the next lines. Here from lines 18 to 32, he says, I am a part of all that I have met, yet all experience is an urge, whether true, gleams that untraveled world whose margin fades forever and forever when I move. How dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rust unburnished, not to shine in use. So he says that I have become a part of all that I have met. And here he is telling about his experience as an arch. What is an arch? An arch is a rounded thing. So when you look through an arch, you never see a straight line. There is something you can see within the arch, but there are so many things which are beyond that arch, which you cannot see. So he compares this arch to knowledge, where he says that the past experience he had, these experiences are not seen as a barrier, but a gateway through which he can glimpse that untraveled world. So the arch, he says that he has traveled some places, he has gained some adventurous moments which he can see, through which he can see what he has achieved, but the untraveled world which lies beyond that arch. That arch is like a gateway to those places where he now wants to traverse. So, how dull it is to pause. He said that it is so dull to pause, and it becomes to rust unburnished. If you stop, you will become unburnished. You will not shine, because when we keep a thing without using it, it loses its shine. So he says that although he is open for a leisurely life, he does not welcome it. He does not want him to become rusted and shineless. So, as though to breathe life, life piled on life, were all too little, and of one to me little remains, but every hour is saved from that eternal silence. Something more, a bringer of new things, and while it were for some 3 suns to store and hoard myself, and this grey spirit yearning in desire. So he says that only life piling upon life, that is not life. Only to breathe is not life. You have to do something to be very prominent before that eternal silence. What does that eternal silence means? He refers to death here. And he says that even though his spirit is grey now, grey spirit is associated with old age. But he says that that cannot stop him from going beyond. So he is not going to hoard himself, or he is not going to live without adventure for the rest of his life, even if he is like becoming old. And he says that follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought. Now, what is a sinking star? In here, the desire to explore and discover things that are currently beyond the scope of human understanding. Now, what is a sinking star? A sinking star is like you see a star, you chase it, and the star seems to disappear. So, knowledge, he compares it to that sinking star, because no matter how much knowledge you gain, that is not enough. You still see that there is so much of knowledge yet left to be gained. So he says that I want to gain that knowledge, which is like a sinking star, which gives an illusion that yes, I have completed, but no, there is still more. So he wants to explore beyond the scope of human understanding. What we understand just now, we should not stop at that. He provokes everybody to go beyond that human understanding, beyond that old age, and do something before the eternal silence of death. Because after death, we will be able to do nothing. So, before dying, we should do something that leaves a mark. Now, here, the lines that I have already explained you, those are here illustrated. Ulysses uses the image of a sword to illustrate his feelings. He compares his potential to a sword, which will become rusted and dull if not used. So he wants to go for meaningful experiences, and he wants to follow knowledge like a sinking star. So this is one of the central themes of the poem, which is of adventure, ambition, and the human desire to explore and discover. So Ulysses uses this metaphor to describe his own desire to pursue knowledge and experience, even when he is growing old, and he is losing physical strength. His mental strength is taking him forward in the pursuit of knowledge. Then the next 10 lines, this is my son, mine own Telemachus. Here we see he is speaking about his son Telemachus, to whom he wants to give the throne, give the kingdom when he is away. Because he is also a responsible king. He cannot just leave his kingdom and go away. So he says, to whom I leave the scepter and the isle. Here the scepter means a ceremonial stick that is held by the king. But this is again a figure of speech called metonymy, which is using a word or a phrase to represent something. So here the scepter actually stands for kingship. It actually means a ceremonial stick, but it is symbolic of the kingdom. And the isle means the kingdom of Ithaca. Well laughed of me, discerning to fulfill the labor by slow prudence, to make mild rugged people through soft degrees, subdue them to the useful and the good. Here Ulysses is speaking about his son Telemachus, who is very intelligent and judicious, and he is also very mild. He is mild and gentle enough to train the rough and wild people of Ithaca and apply the just, relevant and appropriate measures or steps to control them. He himself is an upright and honest person. So here we see Ulysses is highlighting Telemachus' suitability to fulfill the mundane everyday duties of a king, which Ulysses himself thinks is not capable of, because Ulysses is restless to go for travel. He does not want to be with the other people of his kingdom, who to him, as we have seen in the very first stanza, that he thinks they are like animals just eating, sleeping and doing nothing. But he says Telemachus is just the right person, the suitable person to be with them and treat them the way they need to be treated, with acts of kindness and responsibility. And also he says, in offices of tenderness and pay, meet adoration to my household gods when I am gone. He works his work, I mine. So he also says that Telemachus is not only responsible in ruling the people the way they need to be ruled, but he also has the same adoration or the same dedication for the household gods. He worships the household gods that the clan needs to do. That means what he says is Telemachus is capable of doing all the duties, all the mundane everyday duties, which Ulysses himself is not ready to do. So Ulysses acknowledges his son Telemachus' role in ruling the kingdom while he pursues his own adventures at sea. So he says, he works his work, I mine. So Telemachus will do his own work of ruling when Ulysses will take this opportunity to go and seek the adventures he was wanting. So this is again the explanation of all that we have done in the last 10 lines. He praises Telemachus and he emphasizes his virtue and ability to fulfill his duties. And he says that he is a blameless character, very much fit to be a ruler and do and perform all the common duties, leading the people and do honors to the god and the household whatever responsibilities he has, he can do that, and Ulysses can safely leave everything to Telemachus and go for his own adventures. So, here the separation of their paths is indicated. Both are going for different paths. So, Ulysses isolates himself from the kingdom and the common place duties that he is to perform. So, here we see Tennyson's trait of isolation in his poetry. Now, the next few lines. There lies the port, the vessel puffs a sail. Their gloom and dark broad seas, my mariners, souls that have toiled and wrought and thought with me, that ever with a frolic welcome took the thunder and sunshine, and opposed free hearts, free foreheads, you and I are old. Old age hath yet this honor, and his toil, death closes all. So here we see that he is speaking to his friends or the mariners with whom he wants to go out for the journey, for the adventures. So he tells that our vessel is ready. The puffs, the sails that are swelling out in the wind, they are ready. The sail is a flag, which is a piece of cloth that is used as a mast. When there is a wind, it swells in the wind. It becomes puffed in the wind. So their journey is ready to be started. And he said that you have been with me through thunder and sunshine. Here, thunder and sunshine, they also are metaphors. Thunder meaning bad times or hard times, and sunshine meaning happy times. So these two are representations, thunder and sunshine, of bad times and happy times. So this line emphasizes the freedom and youthful spirit that Ulysses and his companions once possessed, contrasting it with their current age and the passage of time. So here we see that Ulysses is trying to motivate them that once you have been through all the hard and happy times with me, you have worked hard as persons, you were free in heart, but now you and I all are old. But we have that experience of our youthful spirits. So those youthful spirits will take us forward before death closes everything. Before death stops everything for us. We had our glorious times, but with the passage of time we have become old. But this old age cannot stop us from achieving more glories before our death. So, some work of noble note may yet be done, not unbecoming men that strove with gods. The light begin to twinkle from the rocks, the long day wanes, the slow moon climbs, the deep moans round with many voices, my friends. It is not too late to seek a newer world. So he says that maybe we have become old, but the rocks are calling us. The long days have reduced. The slow moon climbs. There is the deep moaning sound. The sea is making sounds and calling us, calling you, my friends, also. So here we see a lot of personification. The moon is climbing. The moon is climbing like a person. The sea is speaking to them, calling them. So he says that it is not too late to go and seek something which is new, to go and seek something which is adventurous and which will always not be, which will bring you more glory, because in the background You have all your glories already, and it will not be inappropriate, it will not be unbecoming of you men to go and proceed for that adventures, because you can. So we see here Ulysses is motivating and providing a lot of energy to his mariners to go and start the adventure. So here this is a picturization of the mariners and Ulysses going out for adventures in a big ship. Here is the explanation of the last lines, where the mariners, he is addressing them and telling them they had worked hard and struggled and faced all the difficult times during their travels, which have already been done. So as men with free hearts, they have a lot of confidence, they have a lot of quality in them to oppose every obstacle that came in their way, and they can still achieve honor in their old age by working hard. So death may close everything, but even before death, they can do something noble that can be notable and that will keep them memorable before they die. So lights begin to twinkle and the sea starts calling them, the moon rises and the waves are calling them into that adventurous path again. So these are the last few lines. Push off and sitting well in order's might, the sounding furrows for my purpose holds, to sail beyond the sunset and the baths of all the western stars until I die. It may be that the gulfs will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy isles. So he says it is in continuation with that motivation that he was providing to his mariners. He says that let us sail and depart. Let us push off. And the waves in the sea which are being pushed through by the sea, the sounding furrows refers to those sounds. And the gulfs means the oceans, the baths of all the western stars, the horizon or the place where the stars appears to sink into the sea. So, in those days it was considered that the earth is flat and at the end of it everything ends. So here there's a reference to that when the western stars, the horizon where the stars appear to sink into the sea, we do not know what is beyond that. We know only what is happening till then. But he says that let us go into that unknown. And before I die, let us all continue this voyage. And it may be that while we are on that voyage, the sea will wash us down. It may be that we will touch the happy isles. Now, what is the happy isles? The happy isles, it is a figure of speech, which is an allusion, which is an implied or indirect reference to the Greek concept of the Isles of the Blesses or Elysium, which is considered to be a paradise where heroic souls go after death. Like after death, it's considered that the bad people go to bad places and the good people go to the heaven or paradise. So Happy Isles is a place where all heroic souls go after their death. So he said that maybe we will be, now he speaks of all the things that may happen. It may happen that we will be washed out in the sea, but it may also happen that we will touch the happy isles, because after all we are heroic hearts. We are not leisurely, static, stagnant heart. We are heroic souls who will perhaps go to that happy isles. And also we may see the great Achilles. What is Achilles? He was a legendary warrior who is considered one of the strongest Greek forces in the Trojan War. So, Ulysses knew him. So, maybe in the adventures which are to follow, we will meet Achilles also, he is telling. Though much is taken, much abides, and though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and to yield. So, those are the concluding words where, though Ulysses knows they are weaker in body, they are determined to act. So, he says that we have a strong willpower, we have the temperament of heroism, we are heroic and strong hearts. So, we have to seek to find, we have to go and find, go and explore, and we should not yield to our old age. We should not stop because we are old. So here is the Achilles, the legendary Greek hero, whom Ulysses and his men expect to meet on their journey. Here is the explanation that I was speaking of already. It is not too late to seek a newer world, and they may go to that happy isles where great heroes go after their death. They might meet Achilles, and their heroic hearts have the same temper, even if their body have been made weaker by time and fate. So, they will fight, they will seek, they will find, and not give away. Now here, the symbolism of the sea, it represents the unknown, the infinite, and the sublime. And it also symbolizes Ulysses' desire for exploration and discovery. It connects Ulysses to his past and his identity, because in his past also he had adventures which he wants to do in future also. Now the message we have discussed already while doing the poem. So this is a summary of the messages. Restless and disapproval of Ulysses in accepting the life of leisure. Then it is the importance of living in the present. Like what we have done in the past, that cannot be our mark of what we are. We cannot just hold on to our past and sit idle in our present. In our present also we should be working hard and doing what is to be done to make our life meaningful. So rejection of complacency. Ulysses, we see, was very welcome to embrace a life of comfort, but he rejected that. And he rejected the common duties that a king has to perform. And he embraces the life of adventure, which is full of much more uncertainty and much more hardship. And herein comes the search for meaning and direction in life. Why does he want to do that? Because Ulysses sees the pursuit of knowledge and experience to be a way to a meaningful life. Even if death ends everything, we should not stop seeking knowledge and doing the adventures that we need to make our hearts heroic. And here it is the mortality and legacy theme. The poem is wrapped in the idea of mortality and the desire to leave a lasting legacy. True immortality lies in striving for more, even in the face of mortality. So even if we are mortals, even if we are faced with the challenges of old age and in the due course death is certain to us, still what makes these mortals immortal is the deeds that we perform. So this is one of the biggest message that Ulysses is giving us. Now, We come to answering the multiple choice questions that you are to answer in the semester 3 questions. Read all the answer options carefully. Eliminate any option that are obviously correct, incorrect or irrelevant. So there will be options which are completely not related to the question. So you have to remove them first. Consider the context of the question and the subject matter. If you are unsure, try to think of the correct answer and see if it matches any of the options. For that, you need to read the passage very, very carefully. If multiple options seem correct, choose the most accurate one. There may be sometimes that there are two options which seem very close to each other. Concentrate, read again and again, and read the question and again, recollect the passage, recollect the lesson, recollect the poem, and then answer. Even if you do not answer, whatever the closest option you are thinking, just put just do some answer, because it may be that you get it right because you don't have negative marking. Now you have answering comprehension passage also, wherein you have to answer those questions also in the MCQ form. So for the comprehension, what is it? Even when you do some lesson in the class, when your teacher doesn't teach you the lesson, it is unknown to you. So when the lesson gets taught to you, then it no longer becomes a new lesson. So what is comprehension? Comprehension is that you are given an unseen passage or paragraph where you have to understand it on your own and answer the questions correctly. So for that, you have to read the passage thoroughly, concentrate to understand the theme, go to the questions carefully, note the important parts of the passage that may be related to the question. So you have to read the passage again and again and try to think what it is trying to tell. Because in the multiple choice questions, you will be giving you may be given like this also, what may be the suitable title of the text. So for that, you need to know you need to grasp the meaning or theme carefully. Try to understand the unfamiliar words. It's not that you will know all the words. None of us know all words in the world. But what is the process of interpreting it? Read that line again and again. The line before that, the line after that, to grasp the meaning of that particular line. So there may be vocabulary questions also in MCQ, telling of one words and giving some options of what the meaning may be. Look back at the paragraph again and again whenever you are in doubt. The questions should be read very carefully, because the questions you have to understand properly to answer the questions correctly. So this is all about today. Teachers can open the door, but you must enter it yourself. So all our teachings are just showing you the path, opening the door for you. You have to enter that door yourself. So enter that door without any doubts. Enter that door for learning something new, just as Ulysses wanted to enter the door of a huge knowledge space. So taking some inspiration from the poem, I hope you will do your best to continue your studies. So all the best to you students. Hope you have a good learning session.